I think it was a disappointing session given that we saw some very strong leads coming through from the overnight session with the US up by 0.7%. Yet by the end of the session, with our market finishing on the highs of the day, our market only up by 0.2%. I think we were keeping a close eye on China. Now, yesterday we heard that Zinran, which is a property developer, had collapsed, and we did see the Shanghai Composite under pressure today, down by 0.9%. We also saw the Chinese currency at an 11-month low. So despite the 0.8% rise that we saw in iron ore prices, a lot of those iron ore miners weren't able to capitalize on the gains. We saw BHP down by 0.6%, Rio Tinto down by 0.8%, Fortescue, one of the few that rose there, up by 2.3%. Also a little bit of a strange movement in terms of gold. We actually saw gold prices down by 1% overnight. Yet despite this, we saw the gold miners trading higher. So we did see the gold sector up by 1.6%. So a little bit of a confusing day on the Aussie market, especially given the Wall Street leads that we saw. But it does look like China's still sending jitters through the market. We saw that first corporate bond default on the 7th of March, and it looks like more are now to follow. Of course, tonight in the US, we'll be watching the FOMC meeting. It's the first one that Janet Yellen will be chairing, and the market just expecting to see $10 billion worth of quantitative easing being wound back again. But some good volumes going through, but a disappointing.
The gold price tonight with the FOMC meeting?
I think the FOMC, and also just watching China. I mean, there's been a lot of attention in terms of the Australian property market and Chinese buyers, but there are also indication that money is flowing out of China because of the jitters and into other markets around the world. It's not just Australian property, which is going through the roof, but also UK, Europe, we're seeing money being allocated. So if we are seeing jitters in China, then some of that money is going to be allocated to safe havens like gold as well. So just watching some of those outflows out of China because of those jitters. We are watching the FOMC. Of course, a major support for gold over the last 5 years has been quantitative easing and the money printing that's been happening in the US. And if that does unwind faster than expected, that would be a negative for gold. But if it unwinds slower than expected, that would be a positive for those gold miners.
Later on in market day, I want to talk a bit more in regards stocks. Julia, what if, we spoke about it a little bit earlier today, huge moves today in what if, and recently we seem to be talking about what if, you know, really, well, it's been under the cosh a fair bit, a lot of people writing it off, but today, big comeback.
It was just an absolutely incredible performance by What If. In fact, by the end of the session, the stock up a massive 23%. Now, the rise that we saw in What If really started on the back of a block trade that we saw going through. 7.5 million shares, which is about $18 million worth of shares, going through at $2.40, which is about 3.5% of the company. Now, What If shares today closed at $3. Now, there are a number of short positions in the stock. At the last ASIC report, it was 5.3% of short positions, but the volumes absolutely going through the roof. In fact, times what we've seen over the last average 20 days. So a massive amount of volume, and this is for a stock that's down 52% over the past year. It's down 14% over the last 3 months, and it's down 10% over the last month. It's been very much out of favour because it has been underperforming. It's seen the number of rooms that it's selling going down, competitors like Expedia and Booking.com coming into the market, and it's having to spend on technology at a time when probably the macro environment isn't looking the best for What If. So a lot of speculation around what that 3.5% stake could mean and whether we are seeing maybe one of its competitors buying into the company. And the stock just an amazing run today, up by 23%.